The championship leader just crashed out lap 1 after the most chaotic qualifying in F1 history. 6 red flags, record breaking crashes, and Max Verstappen just reminded everyone why you can never count him out. We saw a qualifying session that lasted nearly 2 hours with 6 red flags, the most ever in F1 history. Then the race started with the championship leader Oscar Piastri crashing out on the very first lap. Max Verstappen dominated from start to finish, leading every single lap and winning by over 14 seconds. Williams got their first podium since 2021, Mercedes showed they're back in the fight, and McLaren had a weekend they will want to forget quickly. Red Bull, Verstappen's masterclass returns. Max Verstappen starting on hard tires made a perfect getaway. This was vintage Verstappen, controlling the pace, managing his tires perfectly, and responding to every strategic challenge. The four-time champion's victory margin of 14.6 seconds was commanding, showing that Red Bull has found their sweet spot with the RB21 again. Since the Italian Grand Prix, something has clicked for Red Bull, and Verstappen now sits just 69 points behind Piastri with 7 races remaining. Yuki Tsunoda had his best qualifying and race performance as a Red Bull driver, starting 6th and finishing 6th. The Japanese driver was part of intense DRS train in the closing laps but held his ground against faster cars behind him. McLaren, a weekend to forget. This was McLaren's worst weekend of the season when they needed it least. Oscar Piastri's trouble started in qualifying when he crashed in Q3, leaving him P9 on the grid, but the things got infinitely worse on a race day. Piastri jumped the start from P9, which activated his anti-stall system and dropped him to dead last. Trying to recover positions, he locked up at turn 5 and slammed into the barriers, ending his race and his 34 race point scoring streak. This was his first retirement of the season. Lando Norris couldn't capitalize on his teammates' misfortune. Starting P7, he dropped to P8 early on and was stuck in a DRS train for much of the race. A slow 4.1 second pit stop due to a front right wheel issue cost him valuable track position. He finished P7, only reducing Piastri's championship lead to 25 points. The team admitted to strategic errors in qualifying, sending Norris out first in Q3, which backfired when track conditions improved for those running later. McLaren's hopes of clinching the Constructors' Championship in Baku were dashed, and they'll have to wait until Singapore. Williams finally back on the podium. Carlos Sainz delivered the drive of his season, converting P2 on the grid into Williams' first podium since the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix. The Spaniard held his ground against both Mercedes drivers throughout the race, showing incredible pace on the Baku street circuit. Sainz's front row start came from perfect timing in that chaotic qualifying session. While others crashed out or couldn't complete their laps, Sainz stayed clean and put in the lap when it mattered. His race pace was strong enough to keep the faster Mercedes of George Russell behind him until the final stint. This podium was particularly sweet for Sainz, who has struggled to match teammate Alex Albon's performances this season. With just 16 points before Baku, this P3 finish was a massive boost to his confidence and Williams' season total. Alex Albon had a difficult weekend, crashing in Q1 and then receiving a 10-second penalty in the race for a collision with Franco Colapinto. He finished P13 after serving his penalty. Mercedes, the Silver Arrows strike back. George Russell delivered an outstanding performance, overcoming illness that had troubled him all weekend to finish P2, starting P5 on hard tires. Russell used an excellent strategy to overcut Carlos Sainz late in the race and claim Mercedes' best result since Canada. Russell's tire management was exceptional. extending his hard tire stint while others pitted earlier, which allowed him to emerge ahead of Sainz when he finally stopped. His pace in the final stint was impressive, building a comfortable gap to secure the runner-up spot. Kimi Antonelli bounced back strongly from the criticism he received after Monza. The Italian teenager qualified P4 and finished P4, narrowly missing out on his second career podium. Antonelli was only 9 thousandths behind Russell in Friday practice and showed he can perform under pressure when the car is working well. The performance was particularly impressive for Antonelli, who had been struggling in recent races. His clean weekend and strong pace alongside Russell showed Mercedes they have a solid driver pairing moving forward. Ferrari, a nightmare in Baku. Ferrari had one of the worst weekends of the season, despite showing strong pace in practice sessions. The team's trouble started in qualifying when their tire strategy went completely wrong. Charles Leclerc, who had won the previous 4 poles in Baku, crashed in Q3 and qualified P10. I've been struggling massively. Normally, I come to Baku and everything flows naturally, but this year, unfortunately, it wasn't the case, Leclerc admitted. Lewis Hamilton's qualifying was even more disappointing, getting knocked out in Q2 and starting P12. Hamilton was caught out by the team's tire strategy, running soft tires when the mediums were proving faster. He felt he had pace to fight for the top, but ended up watching from the sidelines. In the race, both drivers made some progress, but it was a damage limitation. Hamilton finished P8 while Leclerc managed P9. The 7 time champion made a good start, overtaking Fernando Alonso early on. Racing Bulls, young guns deliver. Liam Lawson produced his best F1 performance to date, qualifying P3 and finishing P5. In the race, Lawson was involved in an intense battle with Yuki Tsunoda and charging Lando Norris in the final laps. His tire management and defensive driving were exceptional, holding off faster cars to secure his best F1 result. Isaac Hadjar qualified P8 but had a more difficult race, making early errors that dropped him back. He finished P10 but showed flashes of pace throughout the weekend. The young Frenchman had to deal with hydraulic issues on the grid before the race, adding to his challenges. Aston Martin, penalties and struggles. Fernando Alonso received a 5-second penalty for jumping the start after reacting to Piastri's early movement. The 2 time champion was caught out by the championship leader's mistake and paid the price. He finished P15 after serving his penalty. Lance Stroll had an equally difficult weekend, struggling with the windy conditions in qualifying and finishing P17. The Canadian was one of the many drivers who found the gusty Baku conditions challenging. Alpine, still struggling. Pierre Gasly managed P18 while Franco Colapinto, who crashed in qualifying and had contact with Alex Albon in the race, finished P19. The team struggled for pace all weekend. Sauber, disappointing Sunday. Gabriel Bortoleto secured P12, continuing his consistent season. Nico Hülkenberg finished P17 after his Q1 crash meant he had to start near the back of the grid. Haas, disappointing weekend. Oliver Behrman finished P13 after his Q2 crash compromised his starting position. Esteban Ocon managed P14, both drivers struggling to find the pace needed to compete with the midfield leaders. This Azerbaijan Grand Prix has completely changed the championship dynamics. Piastri's lead over Norris is now just 25 points, exactly one race win. But the bigger story might be Max Verstappen's cutting the gap to the championship leader from 104 points to 69 points in just 2 races. McLaren missed a golden opportunity in Baku. The Constructors' Championship battle will now likely go down to Singapore. Williams proved they belong in the points-paying positions. Mercedes showed they're back in the hunt for podiums, and Ferrari needs to solve their street circuit struggles quickly. Racing Bulls demonstrated they can fight with the big teams when everything comes together, while the battle for the final points positions remains as tight as ever. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe.